Creating extraordinary success in business and life is absolutely possible. That means more income, more freedom, and more energy for what you value most without the hustle or burnout. I'm Laura Flood, certified success and high performance coach, CEO for over 30 years, and a multiple seven-figure entrepreneur. I've built a profitable, sustainable business while prioritizing my family, my health, and my happiness, and I'm here to help you do the same. This is the Redefining Success podcast, where I'll share the strategies, tools, and the mindset shifts to help you grow with intention, live a life you love, and create lasting happiness, wealth, and freedom without losing yourself in the process. Let's dive in. I caught myself doing this the other day, and once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. There were a couple of things on my calendar that should have just taken a couple of minutes, but they didn't. It wasn't anything complicated, and I knew exactly what I was doing. I just found myself staying with these projects so much longer than I needed to. And when I stepped back and really looked at it, nothing in that extra time that I was giving was changing the outcomes. It already did what it needed to do. I was just still there. When I think about it now, it didn't feel unnecessary. It felt like I was doing a good job, and that's what made it hard to catch. Because when something feels like part of you just doing things well, you don't question it. You just keep doing it. But once I saw this pattern, I started noticing how often it was happening in small moments throughout the day. And when that shows up across everything, it really changes how the day feels. Things take so much longer than they should, and everything takes more energy. That's when it clicked for me that it wasn't about how much I had to do. It was about how I was doing it. When I stepped back and really looked at this, it made sense. That way of working didn't come out of nowhere. There was a time where taking more time mattered, where thinking things through more carefully made such a big difference. And when staying with something a little bit longer helped me to get it right. That's how I built everything. So I guess I just kept doing it. I didn't stop and sort through what was necessary and what wasn't. I just carried it forward as my business grew. And at the same time, I was getting better. Things that used to take more time started to feel easier. Decisions became easier to make. There was a point where I didn't need as much time to get the same results. But I never adjusted how I was working. So then I was bringing the same level of effort into things that actually didn't require it anymore. And nothing breaks when you do that. Everything still works. You're still showing up and getting results. It just starts to take so much more time than it should. And that's the part that doesn't stand out right away. It just feels like your day is heavier than it needs to be, even when nothing obvious is causing it. What I want to talk about today is the difference between something being done and something feeling done, because those aren't the same. You can reach a point where the work is already handled, it's clear, it's moving forward, and you still feel like you have to stay with it a little bit longer. So you do. Nothing is asking for more from you at that point. It's just the sense that you're not quite finished yet. And when you follow that, even in minor days, it starts to stretch things out without you realizing it. The work itself hasn't changed, but what you're putting into it does. And because everything still works, there's nothing that really ever interrupts it. It just becomes part of how your day runs. Once I saw that, it was hard to miss. It changed how I looked at my day. I started to see that there were things that I had just accepted as taking a certain amount of time to do. And I never really questioned it because that's how it had always felt. And when I slowed it down, it became really obvious that the work itself wasn't what was taking that long. There was a point where when the work was already handled, moving forward, I was just still there with it. So what I had been thinking of as a time issue wasn't really about time at all. It was how long I was staying with things after they were already done. And that's what really started to stand out. And when that's happening across everything, it changes the way your day feels. You can go through an entire day doing things that all make sense and still feel like it took so much more time than it should have. There's nothing obvious to point to. It's just that you stayed with things longer than they actually needed you. That was the part that really landed for me because nothing needed to change in what I was doing. It was just me seeing how much I was adding to things that were already complete. It wasn't about efforts that I was putting in or speed. It was about where I decided something was complete and ended it. So for a long time, that line wasn't clear. It just kept moving based on how something felt in the moment. And that meant that I was giving different amounts of time and attention to similar things without even realizing it. There were some projects that closed quickly, and others, they stayed open longer, even when they didn't need anything else from me. And once I noticed that, I stopped treating done like a feeling, and I started looking at it more practically. So I would ask myself, with the project that I was working on, what was this meant to accomplish? And is that already in place? Has that been completed? If it was, then there wasn't a reason for me to stay with it any longer, even if part of me still wanted to. I just had to decide that it was done. That's where it took a little trust. There's a level of confidence in letting something be as is without adding to it, especially when you've built your results by being thorough and thoughtful. There's a concept from one of my mentors, Brooke Castillo, that really clicked here for me. She talks about letting B minus work be enough to get your work out into the world. Not everything needs to be an A. And when I looked at my day through that lens, it was obvious where I was trying to push things further than they needed to go. Once I started letting more things be complete as B minus work, things changed. Things didn't carry forward in the same way. I wasn't going back to them or holding on to them in the background. I just decided they were finished. That created a very different experience of the same day. The work didn't change, but how much of it stayed with me did. And that's a detail that most people don't think to look at. They're paying attention to what they're doing and how much they have to get through. They're not looking at what actually stays open and just keeps following them along into everything else. But once that becomes visible, it's a lot easier to recognize those moments when you're in them. Sometimes you just have to decide something is complete, that it's good enough, even if it doesn't completely feel that way yet. Letting it be enough at that point changes more than trying to optimize everything around it. When I look at my day now, this is one of the main things I notice, and it's not something I would have thought to pay attention to before. I used to focus on how much I had going on or how I could be more efficient with my time, but that never really got to the root of why things felt the way they did. What changed for me was getting clear on where things actually end while I'm in them. And that was the piece that I wasn't seeing. But once that shifted, everything else started to feel different, even though the work itself hadn't really changed. It wasn't about doing less or rearranging my schedule. It was how I was moving through what was already there. Things didn't follow me the same way. I wasn't thinking about them later or holding on to them in the background. They just ended. And that changes the feel of your entire day more than anything else. Because it's not really about everything you're working on. It's about what you're still carrying around with you after you've done it. You'll start to notice how often that moment shows up once you're looking for it. So, this isn't something that you change all at once. It will be something that you start to catch while you're in it. You'll be finishing something, and instead of moving on, you'll feel yourself about to go back through it again. You'll want to read it one more time or adjust something small and sit with it just a little bit longer. And when that happens, you'll know it's already done. And that's where this shifts. Because for a long time, I would stay with it anyway. It felt responsible, like I was doing things the right way, and it just needed a little bit more from me. But once I started letting that be enough, things changed in a way I didn't expect. My days didn't feel as full, and I wasn't carrying of these unfinished things in my head everywhere where I went. When I moved on, I was actually able to move on to something else. And that's the part that changes everything. This is one of the things that we focus on inside the Redefining Success coaching and courses. We really take a look at where your time and energy are actually going through your day and where you're giving more than what's required, even when everything's already working. If this is something that you're starting to notice in your own day, the details for courses and coaching are in the show notes. Thanks for being here with me. I'll see you in the next episode.